Arahel, you're standing upon these burning fields. And there's no music or sound except for screaming horses. And as you like walk through smoke and flame, this riderless horse barrels past you and almost knocks you to the ground. And you can hear this clash ahead. Steel on steel. You are parched, and it feels like you have not drank in days. You can't speak, and every time you try, you just wheeze and cough, and there's smoke like deep inside you, and every breath that you breathe just unleashes more of it into the world. And you like pass this dying man of Gondor. There's a spear thrust through his chest plate. He reaches up a hand and like claws at your ankle, but he cannot speak. He just lets out this wet gurgle before falling away from you.
Ariel reaches a hand down as if to help this man, but there is no help that could help this person anyways, and there's nothing that Ariel can give regardless. But he'll reach nonetheless, as if to do something impossible. Before another breath of smoke will like catch in his lungs, he'll let out another moment of like wheezing, hacking cough through the smoke, through the fire, and now his foot's tracing in the blood of this man. Just a vision of pure chaos around him. Seeing that nothing can be done for this man at his feet, he'll like trudge forward towards the sound of the battle, like a moth going towards a flame. He doesn't want to. Everything in him is saying to like stop, to turn away, that this isn't real. So many thoughts, but yet his feet move by some unknown force towards the source of the fire and the sound.
The clash is ahead of you, and it sounds like a great duel. It's like blade on blade, and it's too fast to be human. You push through the smoke, and you see at your feet now more and more dead Rohirrim, Gondorians. There's knights of Arnor and of Dol Amroth, stern-faced Vigilmen, and there's even cataphracts from far off Umbar and Harad. And among them, like littering the ground, covering it, is black blood. And the blood is like viscous and thick, and your feet stick in it like mud every step that you take. And everywhere that you look now, you can see that man is killing man. There's a Dunlending and a Rohirrim who are fighting with their bare hands. There's a Gondorian choking the life from an Umbarian, and more. A Vigilman is hacking his axe into the face of a Daleman, and man kills man everywhere that you look.
Ariel just is like wandering through this chaos, like a man admiring a museum, but of horror. Everything behind, where the glass walls might be, is some ugly visage of the worst possible scenario, the darkest corner of man's being that drives them to do terror against each other and even unto themselves. And he can't help but like examine it with this mixture of curiosity and horror as he continues to walk through, seeing all the different cultures clash. Uh, the exact opposite of what the dream of this kingdom was meant to be. That this was to be the united men who would stand against all else, who would drive back the shadow. And instead, they have braced everything that is opposed to their own ideals. They fight with each other. They give in to the darkness. They're absorbed by it, consumed by it, and there's nothing that he can do about it. Despite every intention to try to help, there's just no way to approach in such a weakened state. He tries to like call out to people who are murdering each other, but only coughs, spitting up blood between each attempt to speak or act. But his limbs won't carry him. His voice won't carry him. Nothing will carry him. He can only look on at the agony and the horror and the darkest part of man.
The clash is ever closer, and you can see it now. There's this bright light flashing at the center, and all around this like circle of great warriors, heroes. You can see Eldaramir, the king, in his like war panoply. And he looks like an elf of the Second Age, glorious. And all these like great generals and lords arrayed in a circle, each with a blade before them. And at their center is this light, and it's like too perfect to look upon. The form is grace and beauty and truth, and wherever its gaze falls, the Lords fight. And it like looks for a second towards Eldaramir, and he strikes out at his brother with this like vicious hate that you've never seen grace the features of one of your kind. And all around they battle, and all of their people stand behind them, and they battle this endless cacophony of blade on blade and screaming horses. And then there's a and you like leap out of your bed, and there are men, several men. They have green cloaks and nasal helms, and they rush into the room. Quickly now, we need him alive. Furiel,
In the chaos.
you have seen it happen. You were awoken by the song first, and you've watched out the window of your room with some worry. You saw the men painting on the wall outside of Arahel's room. You saw the people of Elthingel gather, and there's this like sickening crack as the butt of a spear hits into the peasant's face, and there's a silence that follows as the peasant hits the ground, clearly unconscious, blood pouring from her nose. The silence seems to go on forever. And Berion, the Lord Protector, he like stands at the top of the steps leading to the horn hall, and he seems to stand larger now, like his calculating eyes are taking in this whole scene. And in the silence, in that like little brief window that follows when someone smashes a glass, he speaks. Enough of this. By writ of his majesty Eldaramir, king of the realms of men, lord of the five keeps, protector of this middle earth, I order this madness stopped immediately. You are citizens of the reunited kingdom, and this is treason. I am invested with the power of the king and will not stand for this revolt. If you go peacefully now, favorable, and a stone hits him in the head, and he like tumbles to the ground, and he like turns back around. You can see he's like badly cut on his forehead, and there are people shouting and screaming all around now. There's like insane noise that happens all of a sudden, and as that begins to swell, you hear the of a door being kicked in up the hall from where you are. The same thing would have woken Grimthane and Theomar.
Furiel moves swiftly, gathering what little she has with her, and moving from her room to where she is certain Arahel is awake. Surely he could not have slept through such things.
Yeah, you can see that down the hall. His door is open, and there are two men standing outside of it. Rohirrim looks like green cloaks, each with like a shield and an axe, and they kind of stand in the hallway looking in each direction. One of them sees you and sort of calls out a warning to the man next to him.
Furiel stops walking and holds her hands out in a gesture of non-hostility. What brings you here at such an hour?
It's time for us to take the yoke of oppression from our people. And the half-elf inside this room is going to help us do it. Best that you walk away. Best for everyone.
Furiel is thinking, wondering if Arahel is already injured, if there's more than two. But she takes one step forward. Perhaps he might help you, but certainly it would be of his own free will, and not by any force or coercion of yours. Would that not be best?
Best, yeah. Unlikely. He sort of shrugs. The thing is, we need him as a hostage more, and you can hear it's like as like there's a sudden like flash, and like something has obviously gone on fire, like a brazier has been knocked over or something like that outside, and he like looks briefly in that direction.
I understand your grievances, but you may not have him. He comes with us.
He like looks in your direction, and you see his shoulders sag a little bit. Better that you leave. Better for everyone.
Uriel looks over her shoulder and then down the hall past the man. Perhaps Grimthane might be able to change your mind.
He's good, and he doesn't look, but the other one does. He looks in that direction. Grimthane or Thaimar, have you left your rooms?
Yeah, Grimthane has his shield and no bladed weapons. His shield only. As he's making his way towards where Firiel is, towards Arahel's room. So, yeah, it might be at that moment that he emerges in the far end of the hall behind Firiel.
Yeah, the man on the other side would look and say, "Hold there, son of Rohan. No further. Better for everyone."
Not better for Arahel, he says as he raises his shield and strides forward.
He's the king's cousin or something. They're all cousins. When the army comes, we'll need to negotiate, and we'll need him.
As he keeps striding forward, so that he comes up, standing beside Firiel, holding the shield, the round shield, in front of him, covering both of them partially. Was not necessary to summon the king's army. Why go about it this way, brothers?
Because every day, more of our brothers and sisters are sent to die in faraway places. And every day, they put their boots on our necks. It has to stop. There's a choice before you. What are you going to stand for? Are you going to willingly place the yoke of oppression back onto your people?
He takes a step or two forward past Firiel, so he's sort of more between the men and Firiel now, with his shield out. And levels a gaze at the man who spoke when he speaks of, dead sisters and brothers at the hands of all of this. If these men know him, surely they will know the fate of his sister, fallen to Dunlendings. And he says, "The boot upon the neck of Rohan. Let it not blind you to the other threats just outside of your vision. Yes, we are here on the king's orders. You have not seen the things that I've seen," he says, with some humility.
No, I haven't seen those things, but what I have seen is year after year of this. And this cannot stand anymore.
You're right, of course.
Rohan must look after itself. There's too much happening in far-flung corners of this reunited kingdom where our brothers and sisters, our children go to die.
He takes another step forward, lowering the shield slightly this time, in a gesture of reaching to the man. I speak not empty words, brother. I have seen some of these corners for myself. I know too well that our brothers and sisters are sent to these corners to fight foreign threats, and too many of them do not return. And I know all too well that those who remain are spread too thin to properly defend our borders from the Dunlendings and other threats of the mountains and beyond. He takes another step forward, his shield down by his side now.
Now that you're
Is it
close,
done?
he looks at you and he says, "You are son of Grambling Golden Shield, are you not? How can you side with those that send our people to die? That won't lend us a hand against the Lendings when their armies decorate their white cities. How can you side with these people?"
It's not a matter of siding. He snaps slightly, captures himself again, and puts back on the trying to reach the man demeanor. It's a matter of survival, brother. There are foul things moving in those corners of the world. Some orchestration that we've not seen in an age. The enemy is moving and the shadow regathers. Rohan should have its freedom and its independence. I still believe that with all of my heart, brother. As he touches maybe an embroidered symbol somewhere on his clothing of his family line.
And when will that time come? In 10 years, when this crisis is over, in 100 years, when the next crisis is over. Always there is something, never it is time.
I know, brother. 2 failed rebellions already. Each of them worthwhile. He says that, sort of standing straighter, truly believing that as conflicted as he is at the moment, knowing what he knows and trying to convince these men of the same, he's still a thoroughly proud Rohirric man. And yeah, he's wrestling with this very much, but none of us will be around in 10 years, brother, if the shadow means to do what it does.
Inside the room, Arhel, you were like awoken as the door was like kicked in, and 3 men like filed into your room, and immediately like went over to the bed and try and grab you. So I'll need a athletics or acrobatics.
Oh geez, I forgot how high my acrobatics modifier was. That's an 18.
Okay, so this one guy like moves forward like pretty quickly and like goes to grab you, and he manages to like catch the hem of your shirt, but you're able to twist away and like move several feet away. There's 3 of them between you and the door, and one of them sort of shakes his head. "We don't want to hurt you."
He'll kind of put his hands up. It's difficult to tell whether it's in a motion to signal that he means no harm, or one of caution, ready to act in case he's assaulted again. And like it takes a moment for him to like get his bearings back, having seen so much within the dream and then being so suddenly awoken. But once he kind of gets a moment to like see these 3 men advancing, I mean, no harm to you either, yet it seems you still attack.
"We didn't think you'd come willingly. We need you as a hostage. We won't harm you." "It's not your fault, not directly."
Kind of like look confused at the words. Well, unfortunately, I have very important business that must be tended to, and I have no time to stay here.
"This is not an offer. It's a demand. We will hurt you if we have to. We don't want to." You see the other 2 kind
You
of like
will,
nod at that.
you will try.
And why do you attack me and come after me when I have already agreed to help you, to stand for your cause? I've already given my word to do so, and yet here you still are.
They say your people can move quickly and vanish, and we don't know. We were told to grab you, and grab you we will.
Yet I've been told to do other things.
He like sighs. He does this like, look, I don't like this any more than you do, but you're not getting out of this room unless we have you in custody. And outside the room, the other two are like looking at you, Furiel and Grimthane. Thaomar, what are you doing in all this?
He's going to grab his sword and barrel past the main room where everyone's standing in to block the doorway so that these three guys facing Arahal are trapped. And then he'll level his sword at them and say, "Fools, stand aside and account for your madness. You will not take the king's cousin while I live. Fight me if you must, kill me if you may. Let them title you traitor and murderer both. But you'll find no prisoner in he or myself, just hard foes or useless corpses. Come and face the mettle of the vigil. Our blades are kept honed for greater foes than Dunland goat herders and treasonous hobblars. Have you forgotten the oaths you swore in defeat, or are your memories as wanting as your wit? Give up this folly or doom yourself and more." And if they do not surrender, he will attack the closest one to him, try and cut him down.
So fucking rad. They are taken aback by the words and like by the certainty of it. But these are like not cowards, certainly. They don't like move towards you, nor do they move away or to make space for you. So if that's the case, then you can certainly make an attack, but they basically aren't going to move immediately.
That could be to their detriment. Would that give me advantage?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to action surge because in for a penny, in for a pound. So it's going to be a 19 on the die for the first strike, and then I'll action surge for a 12 on the die, which will be 19 to hit all up for the second.
It's 2 hits.
Okay, and if I kill one of these men, I'm going to like kneel down and take a knife or weapon from them to use my bonus action offhand attack on the next one. So I'll use the Drake Slaying Blade for these filth. It's going to be 12 damage for the first and 9 for the second.
That's going to kill him.
Okay, then I'll interaction to pick up his blade and offhand attack the fool next to him for an 18 on the die. He will take
yeah, that'll hit 2.
7 damage.
All right, so at this stage, we're going to roll initiative.
Jeff, while we're tallying the initiative, could you settle a quandary for me? With action surge, do you get an extra bonus action even if you've already taken a bonus action?
So going by raw, no. It just gives you like
Okay.
another. It doesn't give you another turn. It gives you another action as like the mechanical term.
Cool.
So by raw, at least you would not.
I think you get another action and possible bonus action though, right?
I think it's just the action.
Worded stupidly.
Yeah, it's just an
it's
action.
confusing.
Yeah.
Like you don't get another turn,
Okay.
you get another action, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just because it says action and possible bonus action, which is where the confusion comes from.
Okay. I feel like it's been discussed on threads and stuff before, but I'm not certain.
I think the intent there is just that you can use it to get a bonus action instead of an action as like the extra thing. that
Right.
You get. You can use the extra to do a bonus action if you want to.
Okay, so one of the guys outside who's just been stabbed with this knife, he like looks down at his ruined companion and like wails, and then is going to try and smash a shield into you first, Thaomar. But he misses pretty dramatically and like boom, into the wall. But the axe that follows is an 18. Will that hit you?
Yeah, I'm not wearing any armor.
Oh, okay. It's going to be 7 slashing damage as that comes down. And he's like shouting now for help of any kind. Hamling in the room is going to rush forward and try and grab you, Arahel. So can you make me another acrobatics? Your DC is 24.
I do not get a 24.
Okay. So yeah, this time maybe like with the distraction, you're not as ready. He like rushes forward and like grabs you by the hair and like pulls you into an embrace and puts his arm around your neck. He's gonna drop his axe and pull a knife and put it to your throat. Furiel.
So Firiel, who much like Grimthane and Theomar, came out without armor on, but she does have the short bow in the one hand and the quiver slung haphazardly over her shoulder. And from her position in the hallway, she will fire at the man who struck out at Grimthane, or Theomar, sorry. That's a 15 on the die to hit, so 20 total.
Yep, that hits.
And 8 damage.
Nice. Yeah, so this arrow finds a gap in the armor as he like lifts up to slash down at Theomar and like finds an armpit and goes up to the fletching and he like coughs some blood through his nasal helm and then will like fall to his knees, slain. Anything else for you, Furiel?
Firiel will move up to where Theomar is, and I believe he was almost outside Arahel's door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably all my movement.
Okie doke. Theomar.
So there's one left in here near Arahel.
So there's the 2 outside the door where you guys were are dead. There's 3 in the room with Arahel.
I'm going to barrel into the room and attack and then offhand attack at the closest one of them. It's going to be 17 for the Drake sword and a crit for the offhand.
17 won't actually, on the die or total?
17 total. I rolled
Yes,
poorly.
That won't actually hit, but the crit certainly.
Okay. +1, 9. That's all for a crit. 9 damage.
What do we use for this? Serious injuries.
I'm just going to also... Oh, no, I used a bonus action already, so I'll just stay where I am. I'll yell out for... if there's a stairwell that a bunch of these traders could rush up to double flank us, I'll call out for Grimthane to hold the stairs so that they can't do that. I assume these men aren't calling out for no reason, so they're probably calling reinforcement to us. So I'll yell at something like, Grimthane, hold the stairs while we deal with these wretches.
Okay, perfect. So you're in like you're on the first floor of like a guest house sort of thing for like visiting important people. And yeah, there would be stairs up. Can you roll me a D10?
D10, I can. 1.
Oh boy. And a D20.
D20 is a 10.
Okay. So the knife slashes up and catches like the inside of his like the gap between his helm and his face, and it goes up under the jawbone and up into his mouth. And as you like pull out, there's just this like arterial spray of blood. His tongue is like badly injured forever. He'll always have a terrible speech impediment. And he has -2 charisma.
Not for long.
Yeah. Okay, that was Theomar. Arahel.
Arahel is at this point fairly stunned by how quickly this night has turned from sleep into chaos and now into death. Like the visions of men killing men, the different cultures spilling their own blood and each other's, and he can't help but like feel the light of that strange gaze causing such warfare falling upon him and his comrades now as they're forced into this. But him being weaponless and at this man's mercy, I'm just gonna take a dodge action. I try my best to like see if I can get a hand up under his to prevent my throat being slit or some other terrible death that might happen to me while I'm in this man's grasp.
Okay, no problem. So you take the dodge. That was our hill. Okay, Girthing is the one who you just struck. He's going to bleed hideously out of his mouth, and he's going to turn and try and get you with his shield. Taymor. For a 9. No, yeah, you've no armor, so that'll hit. So I need a
My
strength
AC is
save.
12 at the moment.
Yeah.
So you know, oh fuck, 12 all up.
Okay, so he like as you like go with the strike, he takes his shield and like bashes it into your solar plexus, and there's this like of air as it leaves you, and you're gonna hit the ground prone, and then he's gonna try and hack your head off. So the higher of the two is gonna. Oh, you only have 12 AC. I'm forgetting that. For 8 slashing damage. So he knocks you prone and slashes down with the axe, which catches you maybe in the arm. And then Grimtane, it's your turn. Are you immune to kill? Uh-oh, is it me that's gone?
No, it looks like he's gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's grey screened for me.
Oh, okay. So I'll go to Thrangal then, who's the other man in the room. He's going to turn and try and brutally dispatch the man on the ground. You advantage because you're prone. It's a crit, my lord.
A crit on Airhill?
On Thyamar.
Ooh.
So it's only 6 damage, but I will need a d10 from you.
Eight.
Okay. I'm looking for this minor scar table, and there's the one. So he like slashes down with the axe, and it like you like block most of it with like one of the braces that you have on your wrist, and like bash it to the side just at the last second. But it does leave like a pretty hideous cut on the top of your head, which will like affect your hairline. A minor scar. Okay. That's Thrangal. Hamling is going to ready an action that if anyone approaches, he's going to stab Arahel in the throat, and then he will say that. That's enough. Back, all of you, or I'll kill him. Furiel, your turn.
I would like to try an insight check as she looks at the man and says, "You said you needed him alive as a hostage. Why would you kill him now?"
You've just killed many of us, and I want to leave here alive.
Let him go and your passage is guaranteed.
He like looks around at the carnage that's been wrought. That seems unlikely. I'll walk out of here with him.
If you attempt to walk out of here with him, you will fail, and it will be more blood spilled.
He like pushes the knife a little bit closer to Arahel's neck, and it like cuts a little bit. You let me and Thrangal walk out of here. At the door, we'll leave him.
Give me your word.
You can see that Thrangal's looking at him like, you can't do that. But he nods. I do.
Furiel relaxes the bow, lowers it. I will not harm you, so long as your word is good.
Okay, with that being the case, then he will. His action is to ready an action, so that's it. It's your turn. So Taymar.
I will move up and cut the head off the man who deigned to touch the king's cousin. And if I miss, I will try and stab him through the throat.
He'll use his ready
19 on
action.
the dice. Yeah, he can go for his ready action. And 19 on the second die as well. So they're both hits. It's going to be 26 to hit for both of them. Sorry, 25 and 26.
Okay,
Because I'm better with the Drake Blade.
Those definitely both hit. Because he has the knife ready to your throat, it's going to be an auto crit. So
But Jeff had the dodge too.
yeah, but he's like literally got it at his. I don't know how you could possibly avoid it, you know. So it's only a D4.
12 and 8, 22 slashing damage.
Oh, he is very much dead. So Arahale, you take 7 damage, and need you to roll a crit, please, a D10, before this man's head is lopped from his shoulders.
Yes, sir. 2.
Uh-oh. Okay, and a D20.
Not sure I like hearing the fabled uh-oh on the crit roll, but that's a 14.
Okay. Can you? It's like a long-term madness. It doesn't really make sense. Can you roll again?
Yes, sir. Oh God. 1. I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's not good. Okay, so he goes to do it. He like cuts, but it's like not particularly accurate or deep. But it is. You can like feel it's like terrible pain as it like cuts down into your chest, like behind your collarbone, and as the knife is like pulled out and his head is locked off his shoulders. You suffer a festering wound. Your hit points will reduce. Your maximum hit points will reduce by 1 every 24 hours. When you hit 0, you will die. You need to get some sort of like serious healing to sort that out. But nonetheless, like the knife thuds in, and then the man's head with the perfect strike from Theomar. His head hits the ground and rolls.
And then I'll use my movement to block the doorway so that the last Mueller cannot flee.
Okay. Arahale, it is your turn.
Take up his blade. Slay him.
Arahale's hand will like go up and like grab at where the wound is, like in shock and pain. Like he's not sure if it's like the naivety of noblemen or some hope in the good of humanity or some other foolish visions of good. But he was not expecting to actually like suffer a blade at this man's hand here. But even still, he'll be like confused at the events that have happened. And like he will, out of instinct, being called to by Theomar, like reach down and grab the blade. But as he like looks towards this like Rohan man, he finds himself like unable to actually kill him. So he'll like bring the blade up defensively in case the man tries to finish what the other one started. And he'll yell like, "Enough! We don't need to die. No more blood needs to be spilled." But he'll keep the blade up defensively. And I'll take a dodge.
Okay. And Grimthane is still gone. So Thrangle is Jesus, I don't know. I think he understands that Theomar is like going to kill basically no matter what. There's no way out of this alive, so he might as well take people down with him. So that's what he's going to do. So he is going to turn and attack you, Arahale. I know you're dodging. He still gets a 15. Will that hit you?
That will hit me, yes.
Okay. So it's only 4 damage as the axe just barely like cuts at one of your fingers. That's all he can do. Furiel.
Furiel looks to another dead man upon the floor and will bring her bow up and come to stand between this man and Arahale. I will take the dodge action and say, "No more. Theomar, no more. Please."
Thamar, your turn.
I'll point my blade at that last wretch and tell him to throw down his weapon and place his hands in the air.
My friend gave his word and you killed him nonetheless.
He gave me no word, and I promised him no oath. You assaulted the king's cousin. You'll pay for your crimes. Surrender or die.
To him, it's a choice of die now or die in a week. One is like public, probably like an execution, and this one at least he can go down well. And so he's gonna shake his head. For Rohan.
For folly, I'll say, and then I'll dispatch him for a 17 to hit, which I assume is a miss, and then a 19 on the die for the offhand.
Yep, that will hit.
Okay. 8 slashing damage.
Okay. All right. Arhel.
And seeing this man refuse to give in, even at the furthest down and into the darkness that this could go, he still will like not back down and see reason. So rather than try to like prolong it and talk, speak words to these people who are now being unwilling to listen, he will just try to stab him in the back as Theomar has turned him. He'll use the other Rohirrim blade to cast him down. Which will be a 18.
That just hits.
That is going to be 15 piercing.
Okay. Yep. So he's like looking at Theomar, thinking like, at least I'll go, like fighting a warrior. And then there's like a and the blade will catch him in the back, and he'll die with a whispered breath. And it seems that they're all gone. There's like a quiet falls over the place. Who they were shouting for is unclear because no one has rushed up the stairs.
Furiel's mouth is pressed in a tight line of anger and frustration and sorrow. They need not have died, Theomar. You bring the shadow with you to this place by your actions.
Guard the windows with your bow, lest more of them come at us, and he'll say, and then rush to his room and equip himself for further war, in case it's in the offing.
The Rohirrim blade will like clatter down to the ground. It'll like fall from Arahel's fingers. The hilt just falling away with a clang, and it'll like go back up to clutch at the wound near his collarbone, and he'll like grimace at the pain of it and also at the slaughter that's before them. All men bring shadow with them everywhere. Both Rohan and us have acted in foolishness and in darkness. We need to get out of here.
Quickly. I will help you. And she kind of gestures to where you've set your things. You are not safe here. None of us are.
You can hear outside chaos, that there's like shouting and screaming, that there's lots of like things being thrown and glass being broken. You can hear like horses thudding around in the city, and there's definitely like fighting and like much uproar out there.
Not safe here nor anywhere, it seems. Yet for now we will do no good in this place, besides shedding more blood, putting the already broken alliance at risk, when much darker things already lurk. He'll just kind of like shake his head and grit his teeth. The foolishness of it all will be our death.
Grimthane, could you find us our horses?
Grimthane turns dumbstruck from where he's been standing guard at the top of the stairs. Looks about at the death of his countrymen here, necessary as it seemed to be. And he nods at Furiel.
You can see one of the bodies like looking with dead eyes at you accusatorily.
Yeah, he turns his face away with a grimace, pushing it down to try and deal with later, if at all. But he knows this will catch up with him, with the turmoil inside. And as he makes his way back to their own chambers to collect the last of their things and then go and ready the horses, he can't help but think in his mind whether making his way to Lord Theohelm over in Edoras will be his best course of action for the station that he's in. But for now, he prepares their gear and their horses.
Rahel will take his cloak and his other travel implements, but especially his cloak, and he'll like turn it inside out so that it appears different, like the clear like sigils of the White City and of the half-elf nobility will be obscured, and like pull the hood like down far over his face and the cloak far over his chest to do his best to hide any sort of identifying features that people may see as they prepare to exit.
Grimthane will also give Arahael his shield, which bears the white horse of Rohan.
So your horses are not here. They're in the stables. They're not like in the house with you. So you'll have to like get there, which would be a couple minutes walk through the city to like get to the stables and find your horses and things like that.
We should discard the vestments or cloaks of our office and take up the bloody garb of those we've slain, so we're not persecuted further as we like go to the stables. They'll take us for combatants and likely allies if we bear like the mark of those men and show ourselves to be bloody with fighting. Grimthane, your helm should go over Arahel to hide his ears and visage, so the king's cousin is not recognized.
Nods, seeing the sense in this, and hands Arahael his helm as well as his shield to try and make him just another Rohirric loyalist in the eyes of those they pass.
As we dress in the drenched garb of the dread, Theomar will turn to Furiel and Arahel while Grimthane's at his work and say, in a quieter tone, but not so quiet as he could like stop Grimthane from hearing it, but he's not trying to like say it towards Grimthane. He'll say, Rohan is broken. It cannot defend its borders nor keep safe its people from kin strife. We should flee this land and look to the men of Gondor to vanquish the enemy. We have no need for riders of the mark such as they are. Their peril here is their own, and we have no time to give to their dispute. It is not our failure that the mark cannot muster. Let them reckon with the king for their insurrection and folly. What use for the lines of horsemen of Rohan is there in the thick clawing webs of the Mirkwood? We must fly south and warn the king of what has happened here. This is but a distraction from the real enemy. With that, he'll pick up the last of his gear and look about for when we're ready to move, keen all the while of the sounds of rising slaughter outside.
We see a shot of Grimthane at his work, pulling straps and tightening things, where in the background over his shoulder you see Theomar talking to the other two about this. You just see Grimthane sort of gritting his teeth and pulling things a little bit more gruffly, but saying nothing for now.
Arahel will like adjust the straps on the helmet and on the shield so that while it won't fit him perfectly, it will at least not appear so clumsy as it might otherwise. He'll do his best to take up the guise of Rohirrim as best he can, though there are some parts of him that are difficult to hide, his persona, his demeanor most of all, would stand out against the Rohirrim, but he'll do his best nonetheless to blend in. And you can't help but think back to the king in that fiery, smoky vision, the sword of the king coming down into his own brethren, his own people dying at his hand. You can't help but think, as Theomar says, that we must go back to the king. What sort of consequences that might have if this insurrection is taken as the treasonous act that it is, and he'll like shudder at the thought of civil war in the midst of shadow. I'll worry that the vision that he's seen might be too accurate, that it's in fact the foresight that he has shown him a vision of the future and not merely a nightmare that haunts him in trying times. And he'll just give a nod to Theomar and to Grimthane. I'm ready. At least I think so.
Yeah, you think the hardest part of hiding is not going to be like putting a cloak over yourself, but it's like the grace that follows you. That's like everything that you do. You don't move like a person. You don't like appear like a person in any sort of way. And I think while to the others maybe the cloak might seem like a good idea, I think Arahel, that it's like a temporary measure at best.
Lean on Grimthane and walk with his gait. Show yourself to be a wounded man. They'll give you lesser looking, and he'll gesture to Grimthane has a shield, right, but not a weapon equipped, so he could easily take him under his shoulder and like give that stumbled, like supported walk to him, so that he's not gracefully wading through the chaos in an elfin manner, but being assisted and stumbling as if like wounded, which the cloak could help to promote, given it's bloody with the fresh blood of these men.
Arahil will give a slight chuckle of dark humor. I am a wounded man, luckily, and as he'll put his hand up next to his collarbone, as more blood will continue to drip down from the wound in his neck. He'll nod. It is wise, though, and I'll kind of like, whichever side the shield is not on, he'll use that to like prop himself up against Grimthane as they walk, so that at least some part of his movement will be forced into the awkward stumbling of men instead of the calm grace of elves.
You've heard stories, Arahel, that elves of old actually glowed, and that when they walked through the woods, that there would be a light that followed them. And maybe for the first time, you are glad that you do not have that sort of grace, as you can like hide and limp next to Grimthane as the four of you make your way out of this abode and into the chaos below. You can see all around that there are like people dead on the ground. Many of the buildings are like smoldering or on fire, and like all around you can hear like the sounds of struggle and fighting. You can see from here the hall itself, the horn hall of Elfangel, and it's like been fortified in some ways. They've like moved things in front of the doors, and you can see that like they've like barred the place. There are some like smoldering torches up on the roof that have been thrown, but it seems like the roof itself has not caught fire. There are many people sort of standing in the courtyard in front of this place. All around, there are people shouting and singing as well. To get to the stables, you'll have to like, well, I guess it depends on how well you know the town, but the way that you would have come would have been like through this square and like along the main promenades, so that it like they could show you the town. But I'm sure if you were like inclined, you could find a quieter way to go.
Are people moving in groups? Will four of us together attract attention?
So the only real view you have at the moment is like of this square, and there's like maybe 50 or 60 sort of people milling around here. You can see that like whoever the soldiers were that were defending this place have gone inside. There are 2 dead Gondorian soldiers on the steps. Their weapons and shields have been taken, and you can see like that there are people in the crowd who are like using them. But for now, they seem to be mostly milling around, and they're like throwing things at the hall. There's no one like moving around in groups at the moment, but doesn't mean there isn't like in the city at large.
Can we push on to the stables?
Yep, that's what you like to do. So you can push out into the courtyard, where immediately like the crowd will like look and will be convinced by your disguise, the green cloaks, the blood on them, and like no one will approach as you move past this crowd and into the city proper. There's a lot of sort of small alleyways and things, and you can see like as you move past one of them that there are like people looting, like smashing in a door and like pulling various like objects out of it. So it's not just like loyal and determined sort of uprising. There's also, as with all uprisings, sort of mercenary feelings. But more and more you can see that there are like flags now out from all of the windows, banners of Rohan, and no tree present on them, just the horse, the white horse. So I would like to do a skill challenge to get to the stables without being hassled by anyone. So if you want to pick skill. Whatever you think is like appropriate.
I'm going to use athletics to heave like ox carts or things of that nature down the streets we pass, so that just in off chance we are recognized or gain a pursuer, that they'll be blocked by obstacles that require obscene strength to move.
Okay.
And I got a 7 on the die, so it's going to be 12 all up.
Okay. So yeah, these things are heavier than they seem. And like you do move like a couple of like barrels or like roll them down alleyways and stuff, but there is a point where you're like trying to drag this thing in front of like an alleyway, and you can see some men at the other end of it, and they kind of look in your direction briefly. Who's next?
I'll go. So I'd like to use insight basically to try to, like, as we see people coming and going in different directions who might look at us, to try to like gauge best who's watching suspiciously and who's not, and who seems to be most vigilant to their as an obstacle. I basically try to judge the people that surround them and move about them as to where they should avoid and where they should go towards based on their demeanors.
Okay, go for it.
And that's a 20 on the die, so 25.
Okay, yep, success for sure. Yeah, your unearthly sort of perception allows you to make sure who you're dealing with and which ways you should avoid.
I'd like to use law if I can, with the idea that Grimthane knows the sort of local law and the Rohirric customs and things like that. I guess in terms of remaining unidentified while he walks with Arahale, so particular way that they would walk, or things that they would avoid or say to people in passing, I guess.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
So that's a 19 on the die. And for a bit of extra flavour, while they're walking, Grimthane leans into Arahale and says, "The song that they're singing, Lament for the Rohirrim, was originally sung about Eorl the Young, first king of Rohan, and his horse Felaroth, educating the half elf, as well as trying to distract him from the wound in his neck and the chaos around as they trudge towards the stables."
Yeah, there's a moment where you are encountered, and there's like a group steps in front of you of like several armed men and women, and they like don't recognize you immediately, and one of them says Nepharath, and you know to say Nepharu, and it's like a sort of code to make sure that you're part of this. But you could figure that out. You know the speech given by Theoden and Pelennor, and they let you pass. Okay, I need one more success before this is done.
And Viriel is trying to use the perception to see which streets are most empty, which ways would be quietest to go down. But unfortunately, that's a 3 on the die and an 8 all up.
Okay. So you're doing a good job overall, but this is a city, and maybe you're not used to that. People come from around corners, out of doors, and as you like lead the party down one sort of street, and you come to the end. Right when you get to the end, there they are. This like other armed group. There's a brief like stare down. You're able to like avoid the worst of it for now, but I will need one more success or one more failure from someone who hasn't a skill you haven't used yet. If you succeeded, you can't use the skill again, but if you failed, you can try it again.
I guess I'll try again. And I will try stealth. That is an 11 on the die. It's 16 all up.
Okay. So you lead them down this sort of alleyway, and you can see this like group of armed people who like look in your direction. You see a few of them like sort of cock their head to the side, like, who are these people? I don't recognize them. And like as one of them sort of calls out, you like duck into a house. The door is open, and you're able to like lead them through and out the other side and avoid this confrontation. And you're able to then, with your combined efforts, make your way to the actual stables themselves. Sometime later, moving through the town. The stables are busy. There are many, many people here. It's Rohan, and so the stables is a pretty central part of any city. And your horses are like in the, not the royal stables, but like the equivalent, like the finest stables in the city. And you can see that there's like men here and women who have like taken horses, and there are many like mounted in and around the stables. It seems like there's a sort of mustering happening here of like some of the Rohirrim in the town. But you can also see that like inside the stables that there are like the non-treasonous sort of people, like led by clearly led by like Gondorian soldiers who are sitting. There's like been some like the door is broken, and you can see that there are like thrown spears and stuff that have been like left at the door or like embedded into the door, and there's clearly some sort of like standoff happening here.
What are the numbers of the standoff? What forces hostile to us can we see accosting those in the stable?
So there's let's say, yeah, there's going to be 11 mounted Rohirrim who have like bows, and then there's another like 6 or 7 on the ground with sword and shield. On the inside, you can't really see who's in there, but you definitely know that there are, because similarly, there are like some dead Rohirrim on the ground out here who have been pierced with arrows or spears.
Are there any dead on the periphery that we could drag away or like take the garb of without engaging or like alerting either of those bodies before us? Or is the slaughter contained to within the mouth of the stables?
It looks like it's mostly like in that sort of like line between the door and like where they are. Obviously, there was like several attempts to like charge the door, and that didn't work clearly more than once. There are other dead lying around, certainly, if you wanted to try and like change your garb.
My suspicion is that the gates will be closed beyond this, and so fighting here to weaken ourselves and get horses will just like make us more swiftly get to a shut door. So I'll turn to Arahel and say, we're likely trapped here, and to get horses may cost us more than we've already given to these people. Perhaps we should flee over the walls and trust ourselves to our feet, rather than horses being chased by the best horsemen in this world. But I think to engage here could see more of us fall, and the king must be warned. I will not risk any of us to save the lives of those men beyond. It does not shame me to say, our missive is great.
Arahel will nod. Yes, I think that is the most wise, to sit here. Each minute is a risk that a blade might come, that a voice might call. We might be found, and I fear what would happen if we were. And he'll look to instinctively over to Grimthane, though, at the thought of horses being left and walls being climbed, awaiting the imminent objection.
Yeah, Grimthane doesn't respond straight away. His eyes are just darting across the surveying the situation, desperately sort of thinking for a way that all of us can escape, plus Galmund. He doesn't want to have to leave his beloved horse and friend behind if he can manage it. But you're right. We cannot hope to attack and get away clean. Perhaps if you three make way on foot, I may yet be able to convince them that I am truly on their side, that you've escaped, and that I must take my horse to catch up to you and apprehend you. There may be some that would come along with me, though. I'm not sure how many I could dispatch or discourage. Maybe folly.
You can see among the
Gondorian
riders.
men inside the stable that can.
You go, Jeff, sorry.
If it's Gondorian men inside the stable, they will not allow you to take the horse. They will think that you are one of the Rohirrim. And he'll laugh to himself grimly. Well, certainly you are among them. They will not trust you. You are to get your horse outside of there. Okay, then you will need to be attended. And I'll kind of look down to himself.
Perhaps I can play both sides. Convince the rebels that I'm on their side and that I must apprehend you and you've escaped. And then once inside the stable, convince those within that I am on their side and that I must take my horse to catch up to you and protect you.
I cannot know a rider's beast bond, but I know at least of its potency that you will not be swayed, Grimthane. If that's your course, then do so. But I agree that it is folly. I will not try to stop you. But think on this: if either side skewer you, Galmund will have a new rider this day. Yet if you will live and escape, mayhaps one day you will take up the saddle o' her. But he thinks his words are useless against a rider's love for his beasts. He's heard tales of what folly men of the mark will go to for their beasts, even at a time like this.
But perhaps surprising to Thaemar, Grimthane does look up over to you and take in your words and nod at the wisdom therein, because he would not see harm come to Galmund. And if she's brought into the fighting on one side or another, without him guiding her, then that will be just as bad a fate or worse than him leaving her behind and trying to come back for her later. He looks around to see maybe if he can spot Lady Aodra. Sorry, I dropped a bit before. Have we encountered her this session?
No, not yet. You can see that Thengmar, who was the other sort of lord that you had met, who was decrying the situation when you first entered the hall. He is with the mounted men here, and you can tell by his AO helm. He has this horse crested helm and fine war gear as he sits astride like his war horse, commanding this small band at the stables. And
sorry, he's inside with the
outside. So the Rohirrim are on the outside.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah.
It looks to you like they got in and were repelled. They took some horses but were repelled, and now the Gondorians have control of the stables.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay, yeah. So he would be more or less on the side of the rebels if we're looking at it black and white like that.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. Pain me as it does. Cannot see a clean way to go through, and as you say, Thaemar, we have a greater missive. Let us move on foot. And he just immediately turns and starts making way in the direction that they would need to go, not wanting to draw out the pain any longer of having to leave Galmund. hopefully what is only just for now.
Furiel looks again towards this standoff which is happening between these Rohirrim riders and whomever might be inside those stables, and shakes her head. Is there no hope for peace when such a great threat lies to the north?
Are you asking us, or are you disbelieving of your own heart's answer?
If we were not all so quick to answer with violence and bloodshed, perhaps.
My people are proud, Firiel, of Arnor. And this violence has been simmering, boiled over twice yet across the centuries since the start of this age, now for a third time. I regret that violence may be too much a part of our way, such as it is. But such lengths will men and women go to for their freedom and their heritage.
It is the nature of man to act fiercely, to defend or attack passionately, aggressively. Such is our way. Such has always been our way, and such will it always be. Or at least it seems to be so. He'll say, like downcastedly, saddened by the affair, more than callous. You must make for the walls to escape. Our message is too grave not to be sent, not to be delivered, not to be dealt with. The problems of man only matter little in comparison to the darker shadow that comes, and there must our focus lie, till we can be sure that it's been addressed. Then onwards to the peace of man. It will understand when the news comes that such things are better left for other further roads down, that we will unite again in order to deal with this darker force. You can't tell if his words are naivety or true hope.
May you be right. For if we do not unite, then there is no hope for any of us.
So your plan is to leave the stables and go to the walls and try and climb over?
Yep, preferably towards a gatehouse or parapet or the like, where we can do so without having to actually scale sheer wall.
Yeah.
And in a formation such that Furiel's at the rear, so that if we are spotted first approaching, she can fire from cover up at any enemies who might harass us with missile, and I can attempt to climb up, or Grimthane, whoever's stronger, to give us good leverage and haul people over that way.
Okay. So you'll move away from the stables and away from Galmond towards the walls.
Yep, and if preferably we pass like a clothesline or tethering post or the like, I'll take that knife that I took from the fallen Rohirrim and cut a switch and length of it, so I can haul people up, so that not everyone will have to make climbing checks if it comes to it.
Yeah. Okay. You can certainly do that, or like walk into someone's house, which is like the door is open, and you'll begin to make your way towards the wall. And what follows there, we'll find out after we take a quick smoko break. Be back in like 3-4 minutes. Whew, can't believe we left the horse.
Oh no. He's just too reluctant to be the cause of any more Rohirric bloodshed. He's too torn. Or yeah. Oh man, it's so tough for Grimthane.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. Yep.
Yeah, I imagine he's been humming along since they turned away from the stables, humming along to the lament of the Rohirrim.
Yep, for sure.
While they've been trudging to the walls. Man, Nico, Theomar is such a storm of steel. He's ridiculous. So good.
He's not here to fuck spiders, as we say down here.
Yeah.
Oh, that got me bad. Whew. Yeah, he takes exactly zero shit from anybody.
Except the king. He's eaten a lot of the king's shit, but he's had enough of that. Secretly in his mind, he talks up a lot of jive about getting the missive back. Really only needs one of us to do that, or some other chieftain or captain of people, really. But really, he's harboring Ahael. He thinks Ahael could be the one. He thinks that Ahael shared his disbelief that the king would force us to bend the Rohirric further or break them by this missive, to ask for further forces from them. And he thinks Ahael would have made a different decision in the king's place. Maybe that's treason of a sort. But that's what's in his head as he's trying to get out of here to keep safe Ahael.
It's like a classic Lord of the Rings kind of situation where you have seen things that no one else has seen, and so it's very hard to convince anyone. Like, everyone else is just dealing with their regular day-to-day politicking, and
you can't tell them. Yeah. You can't. You've just got to kill them or direct them. You can't make them empathize. The world's too big for them to go there and see it and to know.
Okay, so we're all back. So you're making your way towards the walls, and again, you're hiding in alleyways and ducking into doorways and things as patrols pass you by, not only of Rohirrim, but also of Gondorian troops here and there, but mostly Rohirrim, overwhelmingly. And you can see now the path as you walk down this sort of avenue towards one of the gatehouses, and you can see that there is much slaughter been happened here. There's fires breaking out or have broken out much around the place, and that there's dead troops from either side visible. And you can see that there is a sort of shield wall set up of Gondorian troops and a winged helmed man at their front, and they're standing there opposite several Aored. And you can see that Lady Aedra, astride a horse, looks across to the other side. And they're kind of not on either side of the gatehouse, they're a little bit up from there. And you could probably pass by without being noticed or seen if that was your intent. But you can see that something is going to kick off here.
Grimthane stops short with Arahael still leaning against him as the pair of them walk, as he sees Lady Aedra up there in this standoff. what is seemingly about to break out into another skirmish. Piedra. What fate is this that I must leave so many that I know and love? Fates that I cannot help.
Ethereal, you would have seen like the look of horror on her face when it first kicked off, when it started, that she was not planning on this. This obviously had been a plan that had been in motion, but she had tried to do something about it. She was not pleased that it had happened. But you can like assume that now that it is happening, she has no other choice.
Ethereal might remark to Theomar, Lady Aedra, did at some moment seek peace, or at least awaiting. I do not know if that moment is long past.
I know not either. None of us can be sure. It is best to leave them and not chance it. What say you? What do you think? Do you wish to go and speak to her?
Her voice is strong.
Not strong enough.
When I
But in the
spoke to
coming
her
days-
last, she seemed promising. The prospect that there might be some unity, some trust in me and us, that we might come to some agreement. But I look at the carnage. I fear those times may have passed ever too quickly. There is nothing left to salvage here, at least not now, in this moment. The peace may be a fool's hope. It will take force to cause some agreement.
Perhaps her voice is not strong enough here. Perhaps in audience with the king, it will ring more true. What numbers are the forces that we're looking at here, Lloyd?
So there's probably like 20-ish Gondorians who like, it's obviously they're not that like they weren't sent here, like they are here and are trying to make the best of what they have left. There are more Rohirrim. There's maybe like 10 or so mounted and another 20 or so on foot.
Am I right? They have a force contesting them or challenging them as well, like some stalemate, or are they just here of their like by themselves?
They're contesting each other, yeah. So like the Gondorians obviously were here holding the gatehouse, and now like this force has arrived, and now they're kind of standing opposite each other. They are speaking, but you're like too far to hear anything, which is why they haven't seen you.
And the lady holds the gate. She's driven the Gondorians from the gate. Is that right?
Back a little bit from it, yeah. It looks like they were like standing in front of it, and like at the sight of this like big force have moved back so that their back is against the wall.
How many arrows do you have, Furiel?
Perhaps a dozen.
And 10 riders. If they're distracted by the Gondorians now, we could move around behind them and try and get up high, shoot them down, open the gates, and take their horses and save some Gondorians with us. Her being here, the position of those Gondorians, shows us where she has pledged herself. She may not believe in the cause wholly, but she is a part of it. And he'll point to the dead men that lit up the Gondorian retreat.
They speak yet. There might still be hope.
Aye. They have hope of hostages, I'd wager.
If there is ever going to be any hope for this place or for any of the places of men, then we cannot trust that hope is lost, that peace cannot be attained. to signal so assuredly that this conflict is one that is over and that allegiances have been set, is to doom us from the start and ever onwards. We must hope. There is no other hope for men that some agreement might be struck, and if anyone among the Rohirrim can help to argue for peace and trust, it is her. And it is those people there now. I don't know what to do. Our mission is at hand and is important, but the peace of the kingdoms may depend on the right people staying alive and earning the proper trusts. I'll just kind of like shake his head.
Arahil, if you and Theomar could go, could find a way over the wall, unseen, perhaps Grimthane and I might do some good here. Speak to the Lady Aedra.
And if her 10 riders turn on you and seize Arhael for a hostage?
You and Arahil will not be here.
Oh, sorry. I say myself and Arhael go and you and Grimthane. Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. He'll nod then. That suits his motivations well enough.
Oh, I lost Grimthane.
That's unfortunate timing.
It'll be good. Like you guys can distract them with parlay, and so that our escape will be made all the more easier.
Yeah, that's kind of Furiel's thought is, at the very least, you two could be well enough away, and all attention on the pair of us. Perhaps with the hope then, she says, of convincing Lady Aedra, maybe even to journey with us. Might be a fool's hope. But the king should hear Rohan.
Her voice among the Rohirrim is valuable. The trust that she placed within me to help reach a peaceable solution will surely reflect well in the king's eyes. If any among the Rohirrim have earned proper place to speak on their behalf, it would be her. And I like fumble around in his pack. He had taken it off in the conflict before, not wanting to give away his own nature, but he'll take out a signet ring, belying his status amongst the Felidhelim and of Gondor, and he'll place it into your hand, Firiel. If the lady doubts that you come from me and that our word is still held by my honor to Gondor, you might show this to her, to know that you come on my behalf.
What say you, Grimthane? Would you come with me and attempt to speak to the Lady Aedra, to broker some peace, at least here in this small part, while Theomar and Arahil go? Oh no, did he drop again?
Looks that way, yes.
Gonna have to call it the Keel Gambit now.
Yeah, no good. So I guess that's going to be the plan. It'd be good to get Keel's input, but he's just not here. The rest of you think that's a good idea? Theomar and Arhel?
I've given my assumptions. I don't think so. I think we should go while the going's good and get the hell out of here. Like a complication we don't need. Like we've worked hard to avoid them. Now we're contemplating going willingly towards one. For a hope, for a fool's hope, an admitted fool's hope. I think no hope's better than a fool's hope in this case, but maybe I'm just pessimistic. But I will certainly not do anything against it because at the very least it furthers as a distraction for me to get our hell out of here. Splitting the parties are like not a very good idea at the best times, but we're already surrounded by foes anyway, so I don't know if like a half or a full like will matter too much in the scheme of things, given the numbers present. So Yeah, I'm not going to stand against it, but I'm not going to willingly go toward it either.
Yep, that's your
Yeah.
decision, guys.
Arahel will be
Keel,
sad
are you
as well
back?
to split the group, but thinking that it's the best.
Keel, are you back?
You know, they never drop when it's like a 15-minute like dream for Arahale. It's always when it's like decision time or
Yeah.
combat.
Yep.
It's when the person drops. Always.
The tech gods.
We've only got a short session tonight anyway, so maybe this is a sign from the gods that we should just go to Yodra now, because it's going to stick in the core of the game otherwise.
Yeah, well, then let's not split the party. Oh my gosh.
Okay. So you can try and leave together and like walk around this thing and climb out together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you'll like skirt along under like the awnings of various houses and like extended balconies and things like that in the shadows, creeping like away to the right of the combat until you come far away enough that you think they won't see you as you like try and climb in the dark. You can hear like sort of echoing words from down there, like they are shouting like across the gap to each other, but it's like drowned out by the sort of breaking glass and fires and all sorts of other noises. And you can like get to the wall. I think it's like mundane with no one threatening you for you to climb out, especially with like preparations that you've made and things like that. So it'll just take a little bit of time, but between the four of you, you're easily able to like move your way up onto the wall, like find sort of some steps that lead up, and then down the other side with the rope that you can kind of make. And so it is in the dark that you drop out the other side onto or into the sort of outskirts of Elfangel and begin to move under cover of darkness away. And the further you get, when you look back, you can see that the city is lit by flame here and there. And there's sort of an ominous glow coming from the city as though it flames all over. As you like reach the outskirts, looking back, you can see that like this part of the, there are people who live here too, but they have like obviously been less involved, or many of them are in the city helping or hindering, depending upon your point of view. And you like walk quickly or run even until finally you get to like the very, very outskirts of the town to where there are just farmsteads and things like that. And it seems that you have made good your escape from Elfangel.
As the adrenaline of the combat and the escape has now started to wear, and the exhaustive trip back seemingly now at the forefront. The pain in Airhill's neck will continue to stab at him with like an increasing fervor. The lack of the adrenaline pump now shining a light all the greater upon the pain that he's experiencing. And I'll like continue to like anxiously like scratch and rub it where the wound is, worried, and like look to the others. This cut, it's gotten me in the neck. It's worse than I thought. I like grunt and need to like touch at it.
If you would permit me, Arahel. I am no great healer, but I have some small skill.
I've seen the wounds wrought in battle. I neither am skilled in healing, though I'll assist if I may, and he'll aid Firiel to give her advantage for a check.
That's a non-natural 20.
Okay, So you can, between the two of you, like start to look, and you can see that this is bad already in the time between like leaving and now, and maybe like an hour and a half it would have taken you. You can see that like the wound is like hot and definitely swollen, and you think that it is infected, and that's going to need a lot of work and a lot of time to heal. Though it's not definitely mortal, it very much could be.
Yeah, her fingers are cold against your skin as she gently presses around the wound, feeling the depth of it and the heat given off. In another, it might be certain death, but I am uncertain for you. You might well overcome it, but it is certainly grievous.
Live so long, never knowing death and pain, not to have it stare me in the face at every moment. It's like shake his head at the madness of it all. We return to the king to let him know what's happened, to find a course forward. I'm sure they, among the half-elves, will be able to find proper treatment. He'll say nervously, not sure, not knowing if what he's saying is true or if he's going to die. And the blade that hangs over him, like a curse, will like weigh on him as he says that.
So now that you're out, where do you want to go? Back towards Minas Tirith, is that right? Or did you want to go to Edoras?
I think at least Airhail would definitely want to head
Minas
back
Tirith.
to the king to meet the king on the way. Because the king, I believe, was going to head in this direction to meet us anyways, correct?
With his
Yeah.
host.
I
Yeah.
think to
Bring an
head back
army
to
and
meet
we'll-
them. Yeah, so I think to meet back with him on the way this way would be the best, so that they can try to at least prime the situation for this inevitable meeting between the Gondorian army and the Rohirrim rebellion. That if there's any hope of smoothing it over, that we need to be there to facilitate.
Yeah, and Grimthane never voiced his thoughts about heading to his own lord at Edoras, and now especially horseless. Yeah, he won't object. Thinks that's the best course of action, heading towards Minas Tirith to meet the king on the road. But he looks very distant and somewhat dejected during all of this, and during the travels, and even the discussions on planning.
Okay.
Uriel might put a hand on Grimthane's shoulder. It is no small or easy thing to see your brethren. You have my sympathies.
He places a hand on Furiel's hand upon his shoulder and looks at her with a weak smile through his crooked nose and missing ear and scraggly beard, caked blood on his face, I guess. Thank you, my lady. Feels as though I'm leaving behind my home, stepping into a new phase of my life, and it's all the more potent for leaving behind my dear Galmund. He looks across the plains that he can see in the current light that they have of his homeland. I've heard stories. I grew up with stories of the rebellion a century prior. My great-grandparents fought in it against the crown, against the king, stripped of their nobility. I'd not thought to see such things in my own time, let alone see the true nature of how those acts are carried out. I've been raised to see rebellion as a thing of glory and gold and songs and stories, spray of blood as if sunlight upon the face rather than mud caking the boots and the bodies. He just turns away at that, just sighs and starts, I guess, silently weeping to himself.
Imperial squeezes his shoulder and then turns away to let him grieve in what privacy they might have traveling together in such a way.
So you travel by night to get as far from Elthingel as you can, but before morning comes. Traveling east towards the Anduin and then down it, thinking that that's the route the army will take. Certainly as far as the Falls of Raros. And as you move through the country, it seems the rest of Rohan is as it was. Farmsteads that you visit are no different, though in cities perhaps it is different. Every farm that you visit is as welcoming as it was on your way up here the first time. And so a day after you leave, you're able to stop with a family who will feed you, and you can get some good bed rest and continue southwards towards the Argonath. It's a couple of days later. You go.
I was just going to ask how many days went by in that, and if it's possible when we stop and rest to apply more healing checks to Arahel's wound to stop it worsening and maybe even stifle it.
Yeah, it'll be 3 total days till you reach the Argonath.
The same as before, I'll assist Firiel to better improve our chances of healing him.
All right, 3 medicine checks coming up. 16 total. 17 total. 20 total.
Okay, so 4 successes so far. You need 10. 10 successes will heal the wound, 10 failures will kill you. Yep, so you're seeing to that wound as best you can every night before bed, and trying to make sure that it doesn't fester and get any worse. And though it's not quite healed yet, it does feel less throbbing and painful day by day. You will continue for those 3 days south along the Anduin until finally you can see the great statues, the heads of the 2 kings at the Argonath. And as you crest that hill, you can see that camped below, down the cliff face, is an army. There's no question of which army it is because there are more banners than you could possibly believe. Everywhere that you look, there is white and black and trees emblazoned upon banners. You can see the swan banner of the Knights of Dol Amroth also, and several banners of Vigilmen who've obviously been brought across the river to assist in this. And so you can see this army laid below and a neat camp, perfectly laid out in sort of neat squares. Everything is very correct, like an army on parade, you would think. Certainly you would think, I think, Theomar, looking at it, that it's if you were playing at soldiers, this is how you would lay out your camp. It's so perfect. And you can make your way down until finally you're able to reach the edges of the camp where you'll be welcomed without any issue.
I'll ask those soldiers who commands this host. If it's the king is what I'm angling for, to go and speak to that person at once.
No, the king is not here personally. he would inform you, and he would be kind of like surprised that you would think that in some ways.
Equally, that I'm as surprised that he's not leading it. So I guess we have something in common, me and this soldier. I'll ask him who does command then in the king's stead.
Andreth.
Is Andreth the one who I spoke to in Minas Tirith, the Shining Knight?
And no, nope, that was a human captain. Andreth is a Ferethalim, like the king.
Ah, good. I assume Arahel knows of him, right?
Yeah, he would be his like uncle twice removed or something like that. Old.
Do you trust our words for this man, or should we go on to the king? Like, I mean, of course we need to warn them, but I mean, as far as like starting a discussion to get something moving, is this the man to do it with, or should we spend more days to get to Minas Tirith straight to the horse's mouth, where we can effect most likely more change?
How much would I know about like what effect that this man would have as far as his power within the political scope? Like, would he have any authority to make decisions, at least temporary ones, until the king could be spoken with, or is he mostly just bound to commands already given?
Both. So he's like obviously Andreth is like a pretty big deal. He's like close to the king. He's like a trusted general and like has lots of actual battle experience. So like much more warlike than the king, which is why he's been sent here.
He's very competent, I assume.
Yes. Yep.
That's good.
Like the king is good at like theory. Andreth is good at getting the job done.
Yeah, so Arahel would say then to Theomar, at the very least, we should speak with.
He may hear the weight of our words if they come from you more than any of us. We should be careful not to veer him from his course to smite the true enemy at the Mirkwood. Let this distraction play out for itself, and when the remnants rise, we can all the better deal with it then, without the waste of more Gondorian lives. There's agenda thick within his words. Arahel would see through that easy enough, but there's just as much logic and sense too.
I'm certain he's been instructed to go gather what Rohirrim are meant to have been mustered at Ethingel. He will go there and he will take action. Do anything, he must at least be warned that we might disrupt that course of action to ensure that warfare does not enter too quickly into the equation. I'm not certain
If this host,
how best to warn him. That was the end of it.
yeah, I think if this host goes into Rohan with the rebellion, the size of the slaughter will be magnified, and it will give the enemy more time to whatever trinket they stole from the Arnorians to get that closer to their designs for them to muster orcs to them from the mountains. And I'm more fearful of that enemy than the one that could not conquer Dunland. So we should warn him of the rebellion, but I'm sure you have your ways that you could persuade him north to the king's true purpose and not this recent distraction.
I will do my best to convince him, sway with what words I can muster. Ultimately, his authority stands farther over mine. But we will hope that words can convince him, sway him that the darker path is the one that must be head to first, that the quarrels of man must be put aside for the darker monsters that lurk beyond.
Rohan will be able to muster no offense against the White City or any of the reunited lands. It still cannot contend with itself or with the marauders to the north. Let them have time. I would rather give it to them than to the true enemy. And he'd step back in that way that says, like, he'll say nothing further.
Erhel would nod and request to whatever nearest troops that seem to have any semblance of authority that he is Erahel, cousin and member of the half elves, cousin to Adrith and to the king, and that he wishes to speak with him at a high urgency.
As you say, Lord, the guard will like bow his head, and he'll like whistle, and another courier, basically like a messenger, will come up and will lead you through the camp in the direction of like what is clearly the largest tent. There's like a sort of fortified inner part of the camp, and like there are many checks through each gate. But as you're like moving through that second area, there's a man approaches. Lady Furiel. Furiel?
I am she.
I have ill news. You'll need to come with me.
Please speak it. I cannot leave at this moment.
He like looks to the people with you. It's rather personal, lady. Ranger business.
Did you not hear us, soldier? Speak.
It's ranger business, Lord. Cannot speak freely of it.
Even when commanded by a ranger?
He looks uncomfortable.
Yes,
You would have me speak it here?
Come, we will find a quiet place.
Grimthane will follow a few steps behind, out of earshot, but following along.
Ill news from Amansul, lady. Your father, he's dead. An attack upon Henneth Brenia, which is like a hidden ranger fort up in the north. Like hidden. Like no one knows where it is except for rangers. Almost all who dwell within were slaughtered. All of the rangers have been recalled at once to Amansul. Decisions must be made.
How long ago?
He thinks over a month. I went straight to Mirkwood to try and find Captain Amathon. Though of him I found no trace. Only Amdia remained, and he was sorely injured and driven near mad by what he had seen. He could barely speak. I brought him to safety. He's recovering with the woodsman. He told me you had gone south.
Only dear.
Yes, lady.
I will come with you. But I must speak to my companions first. Forgive me. And she says that and kind of wipes a tear away. I will be with you in a few moments. We should leave at once.
He puts a hand on your shoulder as you go to leave and gives it a squeeze. I'm sorry.
She kind of nods her head. Thank you. Have your horse.
Yes, and for you.
I will join you.
Yeah, he looks to the ground somewhat nervously and goes to bite his nails.
Speak.
They're all dead, lady. The hideout destroyed. So many lost.
How did they find it?
We know not.
The enemy is stronger and more cunning than we feared. I must return. We must return. A month has passed already. Who knows what other evils have been wrought?
I'll wait for you, lady.
Thank you. And she'll turn back around, face very pale and see Grimthane perhaps 10 or 12 paces back.
Yeah, it takes a few moments for him to notice her because he had his missing ear facing her, so as not to eavesdrop. He sees her pale face and his own face drops as he rushes over. My lady, what news? Viriel?
I must take my leave. I am needed.
My lady. What has happened? I know the grief upon your face.
I would speak at once and be done. Let us find Theomar and Erhil.
Come.
You make your way through the camp, and are brought through like another checkpoint, until finally there's like this big like pavilion tent. You're brought inside. You said the word urgent, and you're of the for the Liam, and that means something. You're brought like quickly enough in to wait just outside of the inner tent. A couple of minutes will go by. There are guards here, also half elves, armed very differently to like the heavy infantry of Gondor. But nonetheless, they kind of stand vigil silently as you stand here waiting for just a moment. Yeah, it's not long before you are brought in, and you can see that there's like a table with like maps spread out upon it, various figures and things, like several men in like fine armor and winged helmets, like cradled under their arms, and at the front, an armored half elf. He's old, looks like, or older certainly, as far as their race goes. Like a lined face and like a pretty brutal scar that runs along the length of his jaw, which is unusual. You rarely see the people, the Feral name, with injuries. He like looks up. Cousin, quickly. He like gestures you forward with his hand.
Erhil will take a step forward. Uncle, I come with dire news.
He looks up. Speak.
The discontent of the Rohirrim has reached its lowest point, a direst point in some time. In this darkest of times, where shadow will shout and grab at the lives of men, the Rohirrim too seek to rise in Elthingel. The Gondorian Lord Protector there has been overthrown. Rohirrim rise up and attack. They seek independence, they seek rebellion. They seek to end what they believe is oppression against them. I'm kind of like motioning up to his neck where the cut is. He managed to escape, but not at no cost.
They have risen
The
up.
king must be made aware of the events.
You're one of them. Why didn't you stop them? He says to you, Grimthane.
My lord, seems their rebellious plans were in motion before we arrived in Elthengels.
This selfishness. This is only men. What madness would cloud their minds that they betray the king now in this darkest hour? And as he like gets angry, there's like a sort of that you can like feel in the room. And this is like something that like can happen with the half elves, that their like emotions can like be felt like physically. And the room seems to darken for a second, and then he like takes a breath.
This has all happened under the watch, order, and monarchy of your people. It is not the folly of men's weakness that has wrought this, but those who govern them.
They are our subjects.
Grimthane looks.
They were your subjects, now they are in open rebellion. The king has asked too much of a once proud people, and now has reaped what he sowed. While his busts are created and his chess pieces are moved in the White City, here men bleed. And you ask what fate has befallen us, who would cast this pall or shadow over us? Surely you know.
They are subjects of the king, and if he asked for every firstborn child, if he asked for every horse to be delivered to Minas Tirith, they will obey. There is
They
no
have
choice in
disobeyed.
this.
They've made their choice, folly as it is, Lord.
Then they will be punished.
Yes, they will. They must, lest others learn from their mistakes. But the true enemy cannot be left to gather strength while we would persecute the subjects. And he'll say the word like he doesn't believe it as fervently as the last time he said the word subjects.
What Theomar speaks must be so. The uprising of men, while important to find some sort of peace in whichever manner the king decides and sees fit. Shadow, the darkness that reaches. It's a much more dire fate if the enemy is left to go strong while men squabble with themselves. And please cast no ill feelings towards this man, and he'll like motion towards Grimthane, where he helped. There's a Rohirrim among them, a name of Aedra. We spoke to find peace, but we spoke too late to stop the events that were already in motion, and this man, Grimthane, has helped me to come to find peace. He is not the target on which you should direct yours or the king's wrath. And I speak for him, for his respectability and his honor.
No, it is the nobles of Rohan who have now doomed their people to more and worse. He like shakes his head at it like he doesn't believe it. This will be the third time that I have to go there and do this.
Let it be the last, Lord, but first let us deal with the true foe. Strike the head of every noble, supplant your own leal subjects in them as was done in the Vigil lands. Do what should have been done the first or even the second time to make the place a place of peace and plenty, but not at the cost of giving strength to the enemy's arm.
We must pass through Rohan.
Then let us. There's no host there to assail us or to stop or confront us. But if we go seeking for one, then we'll find it. Let us pass north into the woods south of Lorien and across the Anduin to where the true enemy, he doesn't want to say waits, lairs. We can march through their lands as easy as you like. This host is thousands strong, and none in this land north of us could stand proof against it.
There is much to consider. He like thinks for some time. You're right. You cannot let orcs multiply. He seems like distraught more than anything else. At this like terrible timing. Well, the message is delivered. We will see you fed and watered and rested. We'll have someone see to your wounds. nephew.
And horses, my lord,
And where would you?
Grimthane says before catching himself. Speaking out of turn, perhaps.
You will remain with us, I assume.
We are emissaries of the king, lord, and he'll gesture to Arahel, who bears the king's chit. We are his servants, and if ordered, we may do so.
He has already deigned us messengers of this news. If that news is best served carried alongside you towards the enemy, do with as information can provide, then it would be our honor to serve his word in that manner. But if you would see it best fit that this news is delivered to him by a matter of trust, then we'll move in whatever direction the king's attendant commands.
He thinks on it. I will speak with him, and I will see what is to happen. For now, you should rest.
If I might say one more thing, Lord.
Speak.
Pride has been the undoing of the Rohan. Do not let it be the undoing of all men. If it is your injured pride that you seek to soothe by quelling the rebellion now, then men cannot unite, and the enemy will grow. Already I must take my leave, because in our pride, we were unprepared, and the enemy has struck a blow against the Rangers of Arnor, and I am sorely needed. There are few of us left. I must leave at once. But I beg of you, do not let the pride of yourself or the king, or what might be the reunited kingdom, give strength to the shadow that grows.
He leans back and seems to grow somewhat in size as he does, and looks behind him for a moment. Pride is the weakness of men, and greed. And I am more than a man. He lets that hang for a second. I will speak with the king, and I shall see what is to be done. Rest. And thank you for delivering the message. And he looks back down at the map as if it's done.
Does he mean speak to the king as in send messages to the king? Like, how will he confer with the king if he's weeks north of Minas Tirith?
Not super clear to you. Arahel would know that, the Palantiri, which are the seeing stones.
That was my fear. I'm not even going to bother warning him because he should know, so I'll take my leave.
Yep. So as you go, take your leave, and make your way into the camp proper. You can see all the soldiers from various places arrayed before you. Is there anything, Furiel, would you like to have a chat with the lads before you wander back to Arnor?
Yes. Perhaps once Airhill is seen and returned to the hangout. Because we lost Jeff.
Plagued.
Utterly.
Thamar, you would see Vigilmen here. Not a huge contingent of them, but certainly some of them have been brought across the river, which would strike you as deeply unnecessary considering how many.
Silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But it's one of these things you think certainly that it's just every section must be represented. Like there are also cataphracts here from Umbar, who like must have gotten on a ship and sailed north, like to bring heavy cavalry.
So
into
long.
Yeah.
Into the woods, into
Yeah.
a forest.
Yep. But it seems like they've just like ticked every box, and they want to bring someone from each kingdom or each I don't even know what you'd call it, region.
I guess he would go to make for them to be around. When he catches Gail, he would go to her instead because her words surprised him that she was leaving. That her words surprised him at first, but then he realized that on some level the enemy is orchestrating like the disparate pulling apart of the pieces, and so like he closed his eyes slowly with that resigned acceptance, but would go to her first. Like he would not leave someone of his company without final words.
And so maybe it's at the sickbed of Arhael that you meet. You've been given like decent food, hot drinks, like a nice breakfast, rashers and sausages, and you can eat around Arhael as his wounds are tended to.
It will heal well enough, Theomar will say as he like inspects the thing, the wound on Arahel's neck, which is probably as close as he'll come to saying sorry for potentially causing it. Your blood serves you well. Lesser men would have died from such, he says matter-of-factly, as if he might have seen it.
It seems lately many of my fortunes are a matter of blood and not of other things.
My fortunes have changed. And I must go.
My lady, you looked white as a sheet after you spoke with the ranger earlier this night. Must be some dire news that he's brought you to ride so far and so hard, and to be taking you with him.
It is. Perhaps it might be ranger business, as he said, but whatever enemy we face has a hand in all of it. And I would have you know where I go and why. There was a secret place in the north. A place only the rangers of Arnor knew. A stronghold. In Ithbrenia. And it has fallen. And there was a great slaughter. Perhaps all dead. My own father among them.
Grimthane places his bowl down on the floor next to Arahel's bed and scooches over and puts a hand on Firiel's arm. This is a terrible loss, my lady.
And of those I left behind when I journeyed with you from the Mirkwood. Only one survived, and they say he is half mad from the horrors he's seen. And so I must go. The rangers as I knew them are no more.
curse has been laid on us that this is the fate that we must endure. That such a darkness weighs upon all corners of men. I like shake his head frustratedly.
Take heart.
As much
Sorry, you go.
as much as your hand would be of use to us here, your wisdom and your skill would do well to serve us in our battle. I would not stay you from your grief and from whatever reconciliation that you might seek by returning to that place. Do what you can to assist your own people, scattered as they may be in the times to come.
Take heart. Surely the enemy's designs led to the slaughter of your folk, the grievous loss of your kinsmen. But some goodly hand, some light in that darkness, spared you and sent you south with us, Firiel.
Grimthane nods resolutely at that. 'Tis your fate, as you've heard me speak of my own, that you were sent south with us while this blow was struck to your people, so that you may return and claim vengeance, have your part to play. I grieve with you, my lady. For the
The
loss
enemy
of,
is moving now. Oh, sorry,
the
you go.
loss of your kin. For the loss of your kin is one of this world's sharpest despairs.
The enemy is moving now. No secrets are safe. Deception is his field, not ours. The home of your kin was sacked because it was secret. The enemy stole your secret trinket because it was hidden. The enemy skulks in shadows and dark woods because he fears the army of the White City, that host which has bested him these ages past. The more we divide ourselves, the easier we are for the enemy to overcome us. But I will not try to speak sense against your hot grief. There is no reason you will hear. You will heed only of your heart where it lies in ruined Arnor. I was glad of your company and skill, and saddened that you would go to gather with those few left. I fear you go where the enemy has laid his designs. Farewell, Ferial. May you live to find hope.
May you live to find peace, Leomar. My fate is hidden from me. But you are right, I will go. I must go. If the shadow waits for me, then I will face it. But my hope is that fate will bring us together again.
Must you go alone, my lady?
She gives the smallest of wry smiles. Is ranger business.
He smiles weakly back, as you say. I would see you again for the life debt that I owe to you for saving the three of us in the Mirkwood. So take care.
And you, Grimthane. Take care. Heed your heart. I believe it leads you well.
And a more pained look returns once again, pained and conflicted upon Grimthane's face, as he squeezes your arm and picks up his bowl and pokes around at his food.
I wish you well, Arhail. I do not envy your task.
nor I yours. Though, even in the darkest of times, we must believe that there is some reason to fight, lest the darkness that surrounds us consume us all, from both within our hearts or from outside of it. I will fight, and you must promise me you will do the same. Wherever that fate may take us, we will not give in.
I will hope until my last breath that there will be peace, that we four shall meet again, that this enemy will be defeated.
Go and bring hope to your people, but be sure to keep some for yourself, my lady.
When morning comes, Furiel is no longer in the camp. She and Belagir have left before the sun crested. And although it's just one of a great many thousands who are here, it's felt much more keenly. You remain with the army for some days while Andreth decides what is to happen, but we'll find out what that is next time. And thanks very much for watching if you did. See you then.